You're about to meet an especially predatory gang of outlaws who prowl through neighborhoods just like yours. They don't carry pistols or knives. Their weapons are fast talk, beguiling charm, and a complete lack of conscience. These criminals are master swindlers, masquerading as home fix-it men.
Excuse me. Hello. We were just doing some roofing in the neighborhoods. My brother and I have a... Well, you have a beautiful house.
In the fall of 1988, a man named Danny Marino talked his way into the life of 81-year-old Harlan Nelson.
Oh, yeah, as a matter of fact...
Harlan lived alone in Eagle Rock, California, supported by a pension fund and his life savings of $100,000.
What is your name?
Harlan Nelson.
I'm Danny Marino. Very nice to meet you.
Harlan had no way of knowing that Marino and his accomplice, Tom Nelson, had singled him out to be the victim of a cold-hearted fraud.
A little leak in the living room, not a leak, but a damp spot.
These individuals prey on our elderly citizens basically because they feel that sooner or later, and probably more sooner, the victim will die, and without a victim, we can't prosecute the crime. Before he could say no, they were on his roof spraying it with some unknown substance, and then they came down and handed him a bill for $6,000. They were up on the roof about 30 minutes, and he, not knowing any better and being trustworthy, paid the $6,000.
When Harlan paid the exorbitant fee, it was nothing less than an open invitation for Dan Marino and Tom Nelson.
We're here, just like I said. Come over here. This is Jessica. This is Mary. They're going to fix the house and clean it up. Here's Ricky. He's going to fix the porch.
They quickly convinced Harlan that the house was in desperate need of major structural work.
Fix it up. Good to see you. I need a saw, that's okay?
Marino and Nelson pressured Harlan into one repair after another. The crew virtually took control of Harlan's life, answering his phone, opening his mail, and driving him on his errands. Harlan Nelson became a prisoner in his own home.
You got any paperwork, contracts, or receipts that they gave you for any of this?
Yeah, I have some stuff, but...
Finally, Harlan was contacted by the police. They had been alerted to the situation by Harlan's personal physician.
Back far here and looked at it just recently. Look at that, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Detectives discovered that over a 5-month period, Marino and Nelson had systematically looted almost all of Harlan's life savings.
You didn't get any shingles, and at best, you got a spray job.
In reality, the team of con artists had done nothing except slap some paint on the porch. While pretending to work, the swindlers had ransacked Harlan's personal papers and found his bank books. Marino and Nelson then tailored their fees to Harlan's account balance sheets. The con men had even accompanied Harlan to his bank, forcing him to draw cashier's checks to pay their bogus charges.
I can't do anymore.
Harlan, you wouldn't want to cheat us, would you? This is the work you owe us. You owe us this money. You finished now $15,000.
He had a little over 100,000, and they got all but about 5,000 of it before they were finished.
You give us the money you owe us, or we take your house. Yes, you pay the money.
At one point in time, Mr. Nelson resisted paying them, and what they told him when that happened was, if you don't pay for this work, then we are going to put a lien on your house, and we will foreclose on your house, and you'll be out of here.
When Marino learned the police were involved, he dropped from sight. He was later charged with extortion and grand larceny. However, Tom Nelson remained very visible. For several months, this ad appeared in local newspapers in Monrovia, a community just 10 miles down the freeway from Harlan's neighborhood.
Hi there, you here for the roof?
Hello, yes, I am Tom Nelson from M&S Roofing. This is my son, Ricky.
Hello.
Ricky Nelson.
Nice to meet you. Ricky Nelson, looks like the singer?
Yes, yes.
After receiving numerous complaints from victims of the fraud, authorities engineered a sting. Posing as a homeowner, an undercover officer invited the con man into a trap.
You can see I got some shingles that are missing.
Oh, yes, it's not very... we can fix that, no problem.
And then the eaves and everything need to be
Yes, we will
sealed.
replace that.
Yes.
We'll fix that.
A previous victim of the scam identified the swindlers to a second officer, Detective John Abbott.
This overhang in
Oh,
his
but we can trim the tree. It will be no problem. We'll make it look beautiful, I
For
promise.
several years, Abbott had actually owned a roofing company
No
himself.
trouble at all. We will fix it for you today. Okay?
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Detective Abbott was curious to learn just how much the Nelsons knew about roofing.
Does your boss have a C-39?
Well, I think he has a C-39. Yes.
What is a C-39?
Well, it is a special equipment that we use for the roof.
Well, I'm afraid you're wrong. C-39 is a contractor's license for a roofing contractor. You know, I don't think you two gentlemen are roofers.
But we are roofers, really.
And this gentleman is not the owner of his house. He's a police officer.
What?
And you two are under arrest for grand theft.
No, you're making I know you're making mistake.
L. Tom Nelson and Ricky Nelson were charged with felony grand larceny. Bail was set at $100,000 each, but later reduced by half. It wasn't long before the Nelsons posted bail, and as predictable as a sunrise, skipped town. Nearly 4 years later, Dan Marino surfaced 3,000 miles away in Monroeville, Pennsylvania. In October of 1992, a tip led authorities to the fugitive, then using an alias.
That's the guy. Let's go. John Dean, Mr. Dean, you wanted under the alias of Danny Marino in the state of California for grand theft, bunco, and frauds. We're going to cuff you. We're going to take you down to the precinct.
Marino's bail was set at $1 million. Within a few weeks, it was inadvertently reduced to $100,000. And the swindler's friends and family scraped together enough to post bond. Dan Marino walked out of jail and has been on the run ever since. Dan Marino is in his early 40s, about 6 feet tall and weighs 250 pounds. He uses the aliases Danny Fleetwood and John Dean. L. Tom Nelson uses the aliases Larry Jones, Jim Hill, and Jim Hall. Nelson is in his early 40s, stands 5 feet 7 inches tall, and weighs 170 pounds. Ricky Nelson is about the same height and coloring as Al Tom Nelson, but of a slimmer build. He is in his mid-30s. While the story was being completed, we were saddened to learn that Holland Nelson had passed away, an eventuality Dan Marino and Al Tom Nelson had callously hoped for. However, Los Angeles authorities are so confident of their case, even without Holland's testimony, that they are not planning to drop a single charge. Also tonight, authorities need your help in locating these other alleged con artists. Please watch closely. David Brian Williams tops the FBI's list of suspected con artists. Williams' scams have included embezzlement and multi-million-dollar bank fraud. He is 47 years old, about 5 feet 9 inches tall and 180 pounds. He has blue eyes and gray hair, which he may have dyed. Among his aliases, Michael Majors, David John Rockefeller III, and David Buback. Christopher Griffin is known as an accomplished romance swindler. Posing as a wealthy international businessman, Griffin is allegedly able to convince his female victims to lend him cash and credit cards. Griffin is 5 feet 9 inches tall, weighs 165 pounds. He is wanted on numerous fraud charges throughout the United States. Derek Leonard Reynolds, a Los Angeles real estate tax specialist, disappeared in July of 1991. He is accused of embezzling more than $1.5 million from his clients. Reynolds is 59 years old, 6 feet tall, and weighs 180 pounds. He speaks with a distinct British accent. If you have any information about these suspects, please contact the FBI, your local law enforcement agency, or call our toll-free number, 1-800-876-5353. Tonight marks a very special milestone for Unsolved Mysteries and for you, our viewers. The 100th fugitive arrested as a result of your tips. Our very first capture was recorded back in May of 1987. Perhaps you'll recall a few of the cases that you helped to close. November 1985, Slidell, Louisiana.
Freeze. You're under arrest.
A police sergeant named Charles Muley found himself on the wrong side of the law, charged with the rape and molestation of 6 young girls. Muley skipped town on the day of his trial and disappeared into the swamp. Authorities feared that the ex-cop would be able to hide out forever. But 5 years later, Charles Muley became the 25th criminal arrested, thanks to your calls. David Harry Fisher was convicted of raping and killing a teenage girl he had befriended at a pet store. Fisher escaped from prison in 1974 and evaded capture until 1990. After 16 years on the run, David Fisher became the 34th fugitive arrested as a result of a viewer tip. In 1978, Edward Harold Bell gunned down a young man in Pasadena, Texas, as the victim's mother looked on. Bell was captured after a wild chase, but later jumped bail. His whereabouts remained a mystery for more than 13 years. After our broadcast, an alert viewer recognized the owner of a scuba shop in Panama, Central America, some 2,000 miles from Texas, as none other than Edward Harold Bell, the 83rd suspect captured with your help. And now there are 100. This landmark arrest came in the case of a fugitive named Dan Marino, who'd been on the run for more than 6 years. Marino was a calculating swindler who snared unsuspecting senior citizens in costly home improvement scams.
We're here, just like I said. Come over here. This is Jessica.
In the fall of 1988, Dan Marino charmed his way into the life of 81-year-old Harlan Nelson of Eagle Rock, California. Marino's weapons were a smile and a handshake.
I need a sawdust, okay?
Marino and his partner, Al Tom Nelson, had convinced Harlan that his house desperately needed extensive repairs. The con men brought in a small army of workers who pretended to make the renovations.
These individuals prey on our elderly citizens basically because they feel that sooner or later, and probably more sooner, the victim will die, and without a victim, we can't prosecute the crime.
Over a 5-month period, Marino and Nelson siphoned off virtually all of Harlan's life savings, nearly $100,000. While this story was being completed, we were saddened to learn that Harlan Nelson passed away, just as a con man had hoped. Even so, Los Angeles authorities refused to drop the charges, and our program aired as scheduled on November 24th, 1993.
A state trooper from Pennsylvania was watching the show and had remembered that he had had a contact with Danny Marino, but under another name. And he did a little investigating, and between the FBI and the Philadelphia Police Department, they were able to capture Danny as a result of the program.
2 days after our broadcast, Dan Marino was arrested at a friend's home in Philadelphia. In late December, he was extradited to Los Angeles to face multiple charges of grand larceny and extortion.
If there are other victims out there, they should contact their local jurisdiction and have that jurisdiction contact us while we have Danny Marino in custody. And from there, we can coordinate charges in other places and keep him off the streets for a while.
Last week, Dan Marino pleaded guilty to 1 count of grand theft. He is currently awaiting sentencing. Police are still looking for Al Tom Nelson and another accomplice, Ricky Nelson. Both are believed to be back in the Los Angeles area. If you have any information, please contact the Los Angeles Police Department or call our toll-free number, 1-800-876-5353.